In episode 139 for September 21st, 2020, StartPage.com, the world's most private search engine with Senior Product Manager Alex Kubiak. Thinking about going on an extended hike, backpacking trip, or other off-grid activity? Then you need Silent Pocket's waterproof and signal-proof dry bag that will protect your electronic devices not only from the elements, but any wireless threat to your privacy as well. These bags are super lightweight, packable, and durable 420D nylon ripstop that will roll down to a compact size as well. Pick up one for yourself at silentpocket.com and make sure you use discount code SharedSecurity to take 15% off your order at checkout.
You're probably aware that social engineering attacks like the recent high-profile account takeovers on Twitter are costing businesses millions of dollars in direct financial losses, lost productivity, and business disruption. But what can you do about it? Well, it starts with making sure your staff are aware of how they can be targeted and exploited. That's why we're excited to announce ClickArmor's new gamified social engineering module called Fakes and Frauds. Unlike traditional training, where employees watch the same video every year and they really don't learn much, ClickArmor's game-based training offers learning quizzes, puzzles, and fun exercises that really grab people's attention and get them thinking about real-life threats that they will face in the future. Gamified learning that is visually dynamic and animated is proving to be 80% more engaging, so employees are therefore more motivated to learn defensive skills. When you can show that employees are actually learning, you get a much better return on security awareness training investment. So visit us at clickarmor.ca today to access your free trial of Fakes and Frauds Gamified Social Engineering Defense course.
This week, I take a break from the news to bring you my interview with Alex Kubiak, Senior Product Manager at StartPage.com. StartPage is a privacy-focused search engine which uses Google search results but removes all trackers and logs. This makes StartPage very different than other privacy-focused search engines like DuckDuckGo. In this interview, we talk about these differences, how StartPage.com makes money, privacy features and benefits of using StartPage, and the one thing you should do to better protect your online privacy. So without further delay, let's welcome Alex to the Shared Security Show. And welcome to the show, Alex.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you. So can you talk a little bit about your background and maybe a little bit about your role at StartPage?
Yeah, absolutely. So I come from a background in search engines and how search works and how to provide search as a product to users. And over the past couple of years, I've pivoted to be the product lead on StartPage search engine. I've always personally been very privacy focused and aware in my personal life and usage. And it was a very exciting opportunity for me to be able to lead product vision of a private search engine to kind of fuse the things that I was passionate about. So, and since I've been working on StartPage and the next year, really working with a team to grow the StartPage brand, talk with our users, figure out how the most privacy aware people think and what they want, and of course, spreading privacy awareness along the way.
Yeah, I think it's great that I've seen just a lot more presence just on social media around StartPage. And I think just in the privacy space, and you've probably heard this before too, it's great that there's just more companies in this day and age that are focused on privacy. And I think we all just support that whether it's, a product or a service or a search engine like StartPage, it's just great to see that in our industry now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Honestly, the more people are becoming privacy aware at all is a success.
Totally. So why do you think it's important for people to consider the privacy of their search history?
Search history is extraordinarily personal. Your search engine probably knows more about you than maybe even your family or your friends know about you. I know I search things stream of consciousness as soon as they pop into my head. It's great having something at your fingertips that you can find out information within, but on the flip side, it can be formed to create a frighteningly accurate picture of you. Your search engine, your devices, your browser that you're using, all of that together is collecting a lot of information about you. Not just your IP address, but the search activity of the websites that you click on, depending on the browser and device you're using, your photos, your emails, purchases, your contacts, and that information is used in a myriad of ways, but to target you with manipulative ads and content. We've seen studies of some of companies targeting people that they think have depression because they know they will spend more money, which is extremely manipulative, and placing price trackers on you. If you have an iPhone, sometimes you'll get higher prices for things because it's assumed that you have more income. And then in the search engine itself, you'll get profiled search results, which put you in a filter bubble of what you're seeing. So you're not seeing the same news that anyone else in the world is seeing. So it's harder to develop complex viewpoints or understand the other side of things. You're really trapped inside what your search engine wants you to see.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I guess for a lot of people, maybe not necessarily that listen to this podcast, I think everyone is very concerned about their privacy. But for the majority of people, I think out there, they're naturally just going to start using Google because that's just what everybody knows.
Right.
So, how would you, I think we all know that, what StartPage does is a completely different business model, as well as just how you handle data compared to Google. But we've also heard a lot about DuckDuckGo, right? They've been on a large increase of, increasing their user base. And in fact, I remember I was driving down the street one day, I saw a billboard for DuckDuckGo. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Like these guys have gotten big. So how is StartPage different than, say, DuckDuckGo?
I'll start with saying anyone that's raising awareness about privacy is, good in our book. So exciting that anyone doing that is a win, because the more people that are conscious of what is happening on Google, the better. But between DuckDuckGo and StartPage, a couple of the biggest differences are StartPage is based in the EU. Is one of probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
The U.S.'s privacy laws, well, you can't call them privacy laws.
Are there privacy laws?
Never heard of them. The U.S.'s laws are they're not protective of the consumer. It's very much protective of the corporation or of, safety of our country. And there's a lot of times where they will do audits or government interventions to collect data. And since we're based in the EU, which has very strict privacy laws, and specifically within that in the Netherlands, which has even stricter laws and very protective of the consumer, then we're not beholden to any of these potential government audits, seizing data. And and nothing is processed through the US. So since everything is kept in there, and even a lot of server access is limited to Netherlands employees, we're trying to keep things very, very separate and outside of the US. So that's one of the main differences. And the other one is we do have a proprietary feature, anonymous view, that allows you, when you are navigating to a web result that you see on the search page, to view it within our proxy. So you can go from searching to actually browsing, and to the website, it looks like StartPage is visiting them. It's our server IP, our information. So it kind of extends the breadth of where you're private on the web.
Okay, awesome. And so is that querying like Google results? So you'll get the same results typically you would in Google?
Yes. Sometimes it's not exactly the same. Google has like a specific feed, but it is Google's, best in class search results. But we're able to do anonymization so that what we're passing to Google to receive the search results isn't any of the user's information. It's all StartPage's server's information.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good. So, we all know how Google makes money, right? It's very invasive in some cases, like take Gmail as an example, right? They're scanning your emails and you're getting ads based on your interests and content in your emails, which is pretty scary, but also search results as well. So it's, I get a lot of feedback from our listeners of like, I can't believe how much Google actually knows about me. But we also know that that's really part of their business model, is to collect that data, to monetize it, and make money. So I think a lot of our listeners would be interested to know, how does StartPage make money, compared to, say, like Google?
Sure. So we do make money through the advertising that you see on the search results page. The difference is we use contextual advertising, which is directly related to your query. So if you searched for bicycles, you'll be served with the same bicycle ads that anyone else searching would receive. This is different from behavioral advertising, which is what Google uses. And that taps into your other information in order to give a more profiled ad. The trade-off there is behavioral ads do make more money, which is why corporations tend to use those. They perform better. They're targeted. However, by having our brand promise and people committed to us, we're able to continue to make enough money to, grow our brand and add features, et cetera, without needing to resort to taking advantage of our users.
It's great. And now a word from our sponsor, Edgewise Networks. The biggest problem in security that remains unsolved are flat networks in cloud and data centers, with unprotected attack paths that allow threats to move laterally to cause data breaches. But microsegmentation using network addresses is complicated and takes too much time. But there's a better approach. Edgewise Zero Trust Auto Segmentation. Edgewise is impossibly simple microsegmentation, delivering results immediately with a security outcome that's provable. At the core of Edgewise Auto Segmentation is Zero Trust Identity, which allows workloads to communicate only after their software identity has been verified. Malicious or unimproved software is no longer allowed to communicate. Identity-based protection provides more coverage with fewer policies to make Edgewise simple to deploy and manage. No changes to the application or network are required. One solution protects virtual machines and containers in the cloud and on premises. To stop lateral threat movement and prevent breaches, visit edgewise.net for a demo and to see results within minutes. So in your opinion, what are some of the key privacy features of StartPage?
So other than the anonymous view, which we discussed just before this, I want to touch on the server infrastructure a little more. So we have a multi-layer server infrastructure where the first layer is owned by us in locked cabinets in the Netherlands. And those are the ones that have the EU specific access control policy. And that's the layer that you hit first when you do a search. And that's where we make sure everything is being anonymized, removed, stripped out of any PII. And then after that, we're able to make the Google call from separate servers that never saw anything in the first place. And obviously after that, we're doing additional redactions. Nothing is ever stored in our logs because we want to be able to say, hey, we have nothing if anyone ever tries to audit us. But having that two-layer infrastructure makes us feel very safe about the Google call and any other third-party calls we may want to do, not being at all related to the first layer of servers.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I kind of look at it as like a VPN too, right? You're gonna, do you trust your VPN not to log data and those types of things? And it's good seeing that, you have that control, or you're putting those controls in place, making sure that all that data cannot be accessed if it was either compromised or, I had an interesting question about, law enforcement requests. Like, what is the typical information that would be received by law enforcement, like through a subpoena or something?
So it hasn't personally happened to me while I'm working on it, but it's happened before my time on StartPage. Sometimes it's from a government that feels like someone's been using a search engine and wants to know, like, hey, perhaps it would be on an IP address, like what searches has this IP address done, or maybe on a specific ISP, maybe in a certain region. I believe, if I had to guess, queries is probably a really important part of that, like seeing what people are searching for. Just in the news, we've seen people publish search histories of criminals, after the fact, like, hey, this is what happened. And obviously that gets into kind of some nuance of the ethics there. But if we really start with the upfront of, we never have anything, so it's not hindering anything or hindering the law. It's just, we never had it in the first place.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So what's the one thing that our listeners should do to better protect their privacy, in your opinion?
Definitely. I would say there's not one specific action to take, because in your personal lives, everyone has their own measures of what they're comfortable sharing with other people. The issue is that this same principle isn't often applied online because it's so abstracted. So people forget that when they're giving personal information, they don't realize that it is to other people. Other people do see your information and they don't have your best interests at heart. So Awareness is definitely the best first step. Being conscious of the tools that you are using, what you are typing, and understanding, like start to form a mental picture of what they know about you. Obviously, then finding alternative tools like a search engine is a great first step. However, if you're using a non-private browser or device, you need to also be aware that they're also tracking it. So one thing that I like to do is if you're using things from different companies, like, I have an iPhone, so I know there are things that Apple tracks about me, but if I use StartPage on my iPhone or StartPage on my other devices, no one has a complete picture of me. And that's how I feel like I can stay somewhat anonymous, but still be able to use tools of convenience.
That's really great advice. Using different browsers, changing things up that you do with your activities or the technology that you use. That is great. So, we always talk about in the show about, adding layers, or in the InfoSec industry, it's called defense in depth, right? Where you're adding different layers of security and technology to the daily activities that you do. And I think combined, using StartPage with a VPN, or, using an iPhone versus an Android, or, whatever your personal situation is, that's just really good advice. So how can our listeners find out more about you and StartPage?
We have a blog. It's called Privacy Please, which has a lot of content about just what we're releasing. Like oftentimes our release notes will be in there, any new features, but also educational content from around the web, things that are happening. We try and comment on world current events, especially in privacy and technology. We also have an awesome support team. So user feedback is our bread and butter. And so anyone that's using the site and wants to speak with anyone at StartPage, we're extremely responsive. So starting with the blog, and then if you use StartPage, would love to hear from anyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Alex, for your time and coming on the show. And we'll have all the links to StartPage on our show notes. So for our listeners, be sure to check that out. And thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
That's a wrap for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for show notes, all previous episodes, and to sign up for our email newsletter. First-time listener of the show, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you like this episode, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Show.